The Hell in a Cell looms over the ring for our final WWF pay-per-view of 2000. Welcome to Armageddon, live from Birmingham, Alabama on December 10th, 2000. Just under 15,000 are in attendance, an estimated 465 are watching at home. Our main event, 6-man Hell in a Cell match, was only announced under 2 weeks ago, but what a way to draw viewers in and grab some pay-per-view buys. Champion Kurt Angle defends his WWF title against Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Rikishi and The Undertaker inside the WWF's most brutal match type, and already you imagine it's going to be sheer chaos inside Hell in a Cell. Our other matches tonight were seemingly thrown together at the last minute. While many of these bouts do feature ongoing rivalries, practically all of them weren't made official until last week's Raw. Kinda shows the confidence WWF had in themselves during this era, or perhaps they just thought people would buy the show no matter what. But the main draw here is definitely Hell in a Cell, and that's why people are tuning in. Vince McMahon gave Commissioner Mick Foley a hard time about booking this match. He thought it was too dangerous and Mick was only putting this main event together for his own sick pleasure. So Mick made a huge announcement on Sunday Night Heat. If anyone gets hurt during Hell in a Cell, if anyone gets badly injured, then Mick will resign as WWF Commissioner. You know, no one wants a safe Hell in a Cell match, and let's face it, fans want to see guys get wrecked in this match type. But at the same time, no one wants to see Mick Foley walk away from his commissioner job. Quite the conundrum we have here tonight at Armageddon. Vince McMahon is here tonight, we'll hear from the chairman later on, but first we've got Team X-Treme taking on the Radicalz in a 6-person elimination match. So, Stenko Malenko got his date with Lita. Check out the last Reliving the War if you want to see how this happened. And when Dino Sex Machino finally got Lita in bed, the Hardy Boys wanted to watch and Dean doesn't play like that. So the Iceman got attacked and his night didn't go quite as planned. Tonight Dean's teaming up with Eddie Guerrero and Saturn to take on Matt, Jeff and Lita, and after the compulsory brawl to open up the match, the ring clears out and we've got Saturn taking a double suplex. Eddie comes in to take a double wheelbarrow suplex, and Latino Heat's gone back to wearing a singlet for tonight's show. Haven't seen Eddie in such attire since his early WCW days. Jeff wipes out Eddie and Dean with a plancha, and this leaves Saturn and Matt all alone to do a little work. And when Eddie tags in, he is able to hit a back elbow, but he gets launched into the top turnbuckle before taking a back suplex. Jeff tags in, he gets some big elevation from a back body drop. He holds onto the ropes when Eddie goes for Hurricane Rana, and after an assist from Lita, Jeff delivers a Swanton Bomb and Eddie Guerrero gets eliminated. The Hardys get a bit too confident when they deliver Poetry in Motion to Dean Malenko. They try to do the same to Perry Saturn, but Saturn catches Jeff out for a Death Valley driver and Jeff gets eliminated. It's now 2-on-2, or maybe it's still 3-on-2, as Terry Runnels provides a little assistance for the Radicalz from the outside. And this assistance allows Saturn to hit a dragon suplex, but Matt kicks out at 2. Matt then pulls off a great sidewalk slam counter when Saturn tries a head scissor takedown. It's so simple, yet effective. And after taking a leg drop and a twist of fate, Perry gets eliminated, which means Dino Machino's left all on his own. Terry gets in to get a piece of young Matt. This doesn't work out because Lita comes after Terry. This little scuffle allows Dean to steal a pin when Matt was distracted, so the two lovebirds of our story are left all alone once again. Lita brings it to the Radicalz' resident sleazeball. Dean takes a head scissor takedown, he takes the moonsault, but he still kicks out at 2. A DDT doesn't get the job done either, so Lita goes upstairs one more time, but she gets caught out and she ends up taking a superplex. Dean could have won the match here, but he wants to teach his opponent a lesson, so he delivers a clothesline, he delivers a backbreaker, and he finally puts Lita out of her misery with a Texas Cloverleaf. Dean Malenko wins this match for the Radicalz. He escapes the ring before the Hardys can get their hands on him, and the outcome of this one makes us assume that this little storyline isn't over by a long shot. Lita even tells Michael Cole that she knows she can beat Dean if she got another chance. Lillian Garcia approaches Kurt Angle and the champ's not happy that his pre-match workout has been interrupted. Kurt says he's beaten people from all over the world to win his gold medal, so he's certainly not afraid of an eyebrow, a nose, a badass, a fat ass, or a redneck. Angle believes he shouldn't be put in such a barbaric match in front of a bunch of redneck hicks. He believes Mick Foley's a sadist, but Angle's career will not end tonight and Kurt plans on drinking a cold glass of milk after retaining his WWF title. William Regal, Goodwill Ambassador and a jolly good fella, takes on Hardcore Holly next, home state hero and a bombastic bastard. Regal knows these Albanians are going to cheer for Sparky Plug tonight, but Willie says it's his lordship who actually cares for these people, so he gives these fine folks a few tips on how to enrich their lives. First, they should use handkerchiefs so they don't look like slobs all the time. Secondly, it's fine to wear overalls, but those overalls should be washed at least once a week. Thirdly, it's all well and good to like your farm animals, but loving your farm animals is completely disgusting and these folks need to stop it. Here comes Bubble Buddy Holly looking all angry. He's just so tough and hard, ladies and gents. And he puts Regal down with a back elbow, which results in the European champion taking a break on the outside. Hardcore gets thrown into the ring post. He replies with a back suplex back in the ring. Jerry Lawler's calling Hardcore a sheepshagger as he goes to the top rope, but Regal gets a boot up and William's going to set Hardcore up for a superplex. Time to teach Hardcore a lesson as William Regal applies a bow and arrow. It doesn't get Regal a win, but it does make Hardcore scream like a little girl. Hardcore reverses a double underhook suplex with a back body drop, and he follows up with a stiff clothesline, a dropkick and a front suplex before going upstairs. Hardcore performs an Alabama Jam, which the commentators didn't pick up on, and I don't think the crowd did either, to be fair. Regal reverses a Hurricane Rana attempt with a powerbomb. Hardcore makes it to the ropes when the Regal stretch gets applied. Hardcore uses the steel plate in his Hardcore forearm to knock Regal out, but then Raven appears from nowhere and Hardcore takes the even flow. The commentators have no idea why Raven showed up, but this allows Regal to score a win, and therefore it doesn't really matter. Regal is still champion of Europe, so all's well that ends well. Not a great match, and so far, this is feeling like an episode of Monday Night Raw. Kurt Angle turned on Rikishi this Thursday on SmackDown. There's a chance Triple H could turn on the Big Goose tonight inside Hell in a Cell, but Rikishi doesn't care. He's worked too hard to get this WWF title shot, and Rikishi will sacrifice everyone in the ring to win the championship. Next up, we've got Chyna vs Val Venis, another match thrown together at the last minute, and a very unremarkable match that again reinforces that feeling of tonight's undercard being like an episode of Raw. The match starts off on the outside where Chyna gets the upper hand. Ivory tries to help Venis out, but this doesn't work out too well. Inside the ring, it's a drop toe hold and a few mounted forearms from the ninth wonder of the world. And Chyna performs a DDT before Venis finally gets in some offense. He performs his running knee strikes, he performs his Russian leg sweep. Ivory gets a few cheap shots in on the outside before Val performs a butterfly suplex back inside the ropes. A missed elbow drop allows Chyna to come back with a few forearm shots, a back body drop and a swinging neck breaker. Ivory's got a very scary look on her face as Venis continues to get wrecked, though he does manage to perform a power slam and he does go up for the money shot. But Chyna moves out of the way and that's when Ivory decided to intervene. Chyna gets tripped up, she chases Ivory around the ring. Ivory trips over her long dress and Chyna has to slow down a little. But Chyna falls right into the trap and she runs into Venis's fisherman suplex when she gets in the ring. Val Venis wins. The outcome isn't received well by fans in attendance, and the Right To Censor continue to piss the audience off when Chyna fails to get revenge after the match. She gets her hands on Ivory, but Venis saves his teammate by delivering a blue thunderbomb. Again, not a great match at all, but I do want to note how much Chyna's improved since her early days in the company. It's probably the only positive you can really take from this match. Earlier today, Kevin Kelly interviewed The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell, and Taker says the cell brings out his animalistic side. He begins craving the feeling of ripping another man's face off, and I can't say I've ever had that feeling before. It sounds a bit mental. Taker remembers making Shawn Michaels bleed in the first ever Hell in a Cell. It gave him such a rush that he wanted to do it all over again. So he went to King of the Ring 98 where he threw Foley off the top of the cell, and he also gave Mick the chokeslam from Hell. A chokeslam that seriously injured poor Mick. And Taker says he really enjoyed punishing these guys inside Hell in a Cell. He enjoyed making Mick Foley famous, and he enjoyed making Shawn Michaels even more famous. The question is, who will Undertaker make famous tonight at Armageddon? Stephanie McMahon seriously worried about Triple H's well-being tonight, seeing as the game shortened his own career when he wrestled Cactus Jack inside Hell in a Cell earlier this year. So Mr. McMahon says he's going to march right down to the ring and put a stop to our main event once and for all. McMahon comes down with Patterson and Briscoe. He's walking with a cane after the absolute beating he took on Raw from Steve Austin, The Rock and The Undertaker. On SmackDown this past week, Vince also dished out some damage of his own when he told his wife Linda that he wanted a divorce, so McMahon's been on quite the physical and emotional roller coaster over these past few days. McMahon said he really meant it when he said he doesn't want to be with his wife anymore. He meant it when he said his wife wasn't good enough for him. But Vince also meant it when he showed concern for the wrestlers competing in tonight's Hell in a Cell. McMahon's sympathy has fallen on deaf ears, the competitors don't seem to care. Mick Foley has trivialised the chairman's concerns, so McMahon stands before these fans not as the owner of the WWF, not as a certified billionaire. He stands here as a concerned and compassionate humanitarian. Go and fuck yourself, Vince. McMahon wants the fans to join him in preventing tonight's Hell in a Cell match. The crowd naturally boo McMahon's request, but Vince wants these fans to send a message to Mick Foley tonight, and he wants the fans to show the world that they don't want to see tonight's main event. This silly shit wants 5 seconds of silence from the fans, and he wants the audience to stand up to show their support for him. He gets angry when the fans refuse, so McMahon says, very well, tonight's main event won't just be on Mick Foley's conscience, it'll be on the conscience of all these people as well. You know, after this speech, you'd expect full-blown chaos and unbridled violence inside Hell in a Cell tonight. It's sure being built up as such. Chris Jericho takes on Kane next at Armageddon. This one was made a last man standing match, and I pray this will serve as the end of the Jericho vs Kane rivalry, because this feud has done nothing for either man as far as I'm concerned. I do enjoy last man standing matches though, so maybe it can end on a high note. The two fight at the ramp. They then go backstage where they fight at a loading truck that's being filled with kennel bedding. It's kinda random, don't you think? Must be a big old dog going to sleep in that truck. Midian catches a few stray right hands too, which is also kinda random, and then the two competitors make their way down to the ring. Basically, the WWF wanted you to know that there's a big old truck sitting in the back, but we'll come back to this a bit later on. Diving back elbow from Y2J, Chris tries another high risk move, but Kane catches him on the outside, resulting in Jericho taking a few bumps at the ring post, followed with a power slam. The two get in the ring where Chris takes a backbreaker, and Kane's going to focus on Jericho's lower back in hopes that Y2J can't stand up after a 10 count. Jericho gets launched from one side of the ring to the other. The Big Red Machine applies a reverse chokelift, which ends up knocking Chris out. Kane's told to release the hold so Teddy Long can begin his count, but Chris gains consciousness at the count of 7, so Kane's gonna go back on offense. Jericho must be feeling a bit woozy because he misses a spinning wheel kick and Y2J gets stomped on the canvas. He tries again and he does score on his second attempt, but Kane gets the knees up when Jericho goes for a lion salt and the Big Red Machine flies with his diving clothesline. Chris gets up. Kane thinks his opponent really should have stayed down. So 3 hard punches get delivered and Jericho has another opportunity to just stay on the canvas and call it quits. He decides to get up, he invites Kane to try again, so Kane's like, alright then, and the Ayatollah gets chokeslammed so hard that there's no way he's going to get up before 10. Of all the evils that Kane's seen in his life, of all the unbelievable hellscapes he's travelled through during his time on Earth, he cannot believe his burnt eyeballs when Jericho gets to his feet again. So he grabs a chair, he whacks Jericho twice before setting him up for a tombstone. Chris manages to avoid disaster and he delivers a low blow, and Kane takes a DDT. Jericho then takes the chair and Kane gets cracked on the head after a wild swing. Jericho thinks he's got it won, but the Big Red Machine gets up. So it's a running forearm, a missile dropkick, and a facebuster from Chris before he sets the chair across Kane's chest for a lion salt. Not the smartest move in the world, and it was all for nothing seeing as both men stand up and the match continues on. Kane delivers a big boot, Y2J gets dumped out of the ring, and the two travel up the entranceway for the match finish. Kane tries to chokeslam Jericho through a table, but Chris avoids it, and it's Kane taking all the impact. Chris then uses a big entrance prop to win the match as he pushes some stacked barrels on top of his opponent, and that's how it ended. Jericho defeats Kane at Armageddon, and it was alright I guess. It certainly won't be the first last man standing match that springs to mind when the match type gets mentioned, and if this is the payoff for the rivalry, then it's actually quite fitting. The feud was mediocre, and honestly, so was their final match. Deborah tells Jonathan Coachman that Mick's quite upset about Mr. McMahon's promo, but Foley gives an interview anyway. He says Vince McMahon's been right about a lot of things, but he's dead wrong about tonight's Hell in a Cell. Fans do want to see the match, and the match will take place. Mick feels responsible for all the men competing in tonight's main event. He admits he will be happy when it's all over, but Mr. McMahon is not going to stop the Cell match from happening at Armageddon. We get to see HBK making a few sniff deliveries at WWF New York. It's 2 for 1 on pay-per-view nights, don't you know? A Four Corners tag team title match took place next. There were some arguments going on about who should be the number 1 contenders, and the Dudleys confused things even more when they showed up to Raw dressed like members of the Right To Censor. Turns out Bubba Ray and Devon are way too immoral to join the RTC, so they, along with Doggy Style Quickie and Edge and Christian, have an opportunity tonight to win the tag team championships from the goodest of fathers and the bullest of Buchanans. This one was first fall to a finish, and it completely broke down after K-Quick's dive over the top rope. He got caught out by the Right To Censor, Goodfather delivered a shoulder breaker, Road Dogg managed to take out the Right To Censor, but he forgot about Stevie Richards. The RTC's leader delivers a super kick, while inside the ring, Edge finds himself taking the Dudleys' headbutt. The Dudleys want to get some wood, so they go out and grab a table. This gets used to keep the Right To Censor stunned a little longer so the Dudleys can pull off a Doomsday device back inside the ring. Bubba Ray and Devon continue to dominate by dishing out 3Ds to both Buchanan and the Goodfather. Christian then took the headbutt, and fans started to think that the Dudleys had it won. But Steven Richards got involved again when Devon tried to retrieve the table, and this left Bubba all alone to take a spear from Edge and the unprettier from Christian. ENC are once again tag team champions, and for my money, this was the right call. Watching all this go down years ago, I always liked Edge and Christian, but nowadays I appreciate their Attitude Era characters even more. I find them funnier and way more entertaining now than what I did back then, and they definitely put in the work every time they got booked on TV. So no complaints here, and the match was pretty decent too. Stephanie's expressing her concerns to her husband Triple H, but Hunter tells his wife to shut her mouth. The WWF title means everything to the game, and it doesn't matter what it takes. Pro wrestling is Hunter's life. Triple H will do anything to get the championship back around his waist. He fully appreciates how dangerous Hell in a Cell is, but it really doesn't matter. No one's going to stop him becoming champion once again. Billy Gunn defended his IC title against Chris Benoit next. Jim Ross says Billy Gunn, right now, is the WWF's best athlete, and that's one crazy fucking statement to make when you've got an Olympic gold medalist on your roster. He's sure going to get tested here tonight by the self-proclaimed greatest technical wrestler in the world, but Billy holds his own with a drop toe hold, some snappy arm drag takedowns, and a few hip tosses. Benoit gets stomped out of the ring and he ends up getting chinned on the ring post. Chris uses his opponent's own momentum against him when throwing the one into the ring steps. And back in the ring, Billy's going to get punished in the corner as Chris puts focus on the champ's left leg. Benoit drills Billy's leg into the mat. He performs a dropkick. Billy screams, "Oh Jesus," as he takes a dragon screw. And the WWF's greatest athlete isn't looking too hot as Benoit applies a figure 4 leg lock. The pressure gets reversed and the move gets broken up, and fair play to Billy. He remembers to sell the leg when going for and missing a stinger splash. I know it's basic as hell, but I've watched a ton of wrestling, ladies and gents, and it's amazing how often wrestlers totally forget to sell targeted beatdowns. Billy gets suplexed straight to the Shadow Realm. Benoit goes up for the headbutt, but he misses his target. The one-legged Billy Gunn performs a power slam and a gorilla press, but he's still favouring that knee, and he's very slow when performing the jackhammer. I liked how Billy tried to take the weight off his injured leg when performing this move, and again, it's basic stuff, but it really helps sell the injury. Billy delivers a famouser, but he's too slow when making the cover. His Cobra Clutch Slam gets easily countered, and the IC champ finds himself in a crippler crossface. Luckily, he's able to make it to the ropes, and Billy gets another chance, but he fails big time when trying a tilt-a-whirl slam, and I'd like to think this was another effort to sell the injury, but I'm not so sure about that. The match ends with Billy trying to roll up, but Benoit kicks out. The challenger applies the crossface one more time, and Billy tops out. Chris Benoit has won the Intercontinental Championship, and you know, I actually like this match more than others just because of the way Billy sold his injuries. It's more interesting to me seeing this rather than two guys going through the motions, and there's another level of psychology here thanks to Gunn remembering to sell even when he was on offense. So yeah, again, no complaints. The match wasn't amazing or anything, but you can't really complain. Jim Ross interviewed Steve Austin earlier today, and Stone Cold said there's really no way to prepare for Hell in a Cell. He had a restless night, but he's just eager to start the match. Austin admits he doesn't really have a game plan, he's just going to let the chips fall where they may. He knows Rikishi and Triple H are in the match, and while he still wants to get revenge on these two for what they did to him last year, Stone Cold understands that the ultimate prize is the WWF Championship. That's what Austin needs to focus on in tonight's main event. Ivory defended her women's championship in a triple threat match. She faced Molly Holly, who's gotten over pretty well with WWF fans since her arrival, and she also faced Trish Stratus, another lady who seemingly became popular the moment she walked into the company. The women were afforded just over 2 minutes here, which was absolutely preposterous for a championship match on pay-per-view. I understand the main draw is Hell in a Cell, but Shawn Michaels had nearly the same amount of time for his interview from Times Square. Ivory stood back while Trish and Molly went to work. She did interject herself when Molly landed on her feet from a monkey flip. Molly answers with a double dropkick, but the heels formed an alliance when performing a double suplex. That alliance, however, was broken when Ivory cheap-shotted Trish. So Molly performs a top rope crossbody. She then dumps Ivory out of the ring. She shows what she can do with a sit-down powerbomb, but Ivory steals the glory when she throws Molly out of the ring and she pins Trish. After the bell, TNA come out to attack Molly. Molly's cousin runs down to help out, and young Elroy's in trouble when Test and Albert step in the ring. The APA then make their return, and they want to get a piece of TNA for ripping off their protection business. And the crowd goes crazy as Test takes a spinebuster from Farouk and Albert takes Bradshaw's clothesline from Hell. The audience love these two for sure, and they're very happy to see the APA back in the WWF. I'm just happy to see Bradshaw wearing his APA shirt that says "Always pounding ass." The Rock says tonight's the night. Careers are on the line, the WWF title's on the line. If Rock has to bleed from every pore in his body, he's going to do it because Rock wants to win the gold for the 6th time. Tonight Rock's going to sweat, he's going to bleed, he's going to whip 5 candy asses, and Rock's going to walk straight into hell and walk out WWF champion. We already know the story. Mick Foley booked this match because he understands it can change careers for the better. He also knows it can end careers, so he's put his own job on the line if someone gets seriously injured. But this is not enough for Vince McMahon. The chairman tried to stop guys competing inside Hell in a Cell tonight. They all answered McMahon by beating him up on Raw. But as we seen earlier on, McMahon still doesn't want this match to happen for 2 reasons. 1, Vince thinks Foley's only booked the match because the commissioner gets some sort of sick pleasure in seeing guys mutilate each other. And 2, McMahon's worried about his investments. He's worried that guys like Stone Cold and The Rock are shortening their careers by competing in such a match. The Game makes his entrance first. A very green Rikishi makes his way to the ring next. Next out, it's the WWF Champion, which is kinda weird, but I guess they wanted to keep all the babyfaces coming out as the final 3. The Undertaker debuts his new theme song here. It's Rollin' by Limp Bizkit. Next out, it's the People's Champion, who had a lot of fun making a mockery of his opponents on Raw this past Monday. And finally, here comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. The pieces are in place. It's time for the Armageddon 6-man Hell in a Cell. Austin dashes at Kurt Angle before getting inside the cell. The champ gets tossed inside as Stone Cold then goes to work on Triple H. Rock and Rikishi are battling it out, as is the Undertaker and Angle, and not a single soul is inside the ring. It's utter chaos right from the get-go. Finally, Kurt and Undertaker step inside the ropes and Angle takes a corner clothesline. In the opposite corner, Kurt gets his neck snapped over the middle rope, and these two then exit the ring so Rock and Rikishi can do a bit of work center stage, which is actually a pretty good way to lay out the start of the match. This gives everyone a little ring time before all hell breaks loose, and trust me, all hell will indeed break loose. After Rock takes Rikishi out with a big jumping clothesline, we get the rattlesnake in the Game inside the ring. Hunter performs the facebreaker knee smash, Austin replies with a Lou Thesz press, Stone Cold drops an elbow on Triple H's gigantic nose, and Hunter also takes the dreaded leapfrog teabag. Rock and Kurt then get in the ring, and it doesn't take long for Hunter and Austin to make their exit. It's a Samoan drop from the People's Champion and a back elbow from the WWF Champion. Though this format of only 2 guys getting in the ring at the one time wasn't going to last forever, so the ring gets vacated and we get more brawling on the outside. Guys are throwing each other in the cage panels, there's bumps on the ring steps. It kinda dawns on you here that no real story can get told in this Hell in a Cell match, and it was the stories of the previous Cell matches that made them so great. Bossman vs Undertaker notwithstanding. Stone Cold's now grinding Triple H's face into the cage, and this ends up tearing the game's forehead open. Finally, we're seeing something a little more violent. But Stone Cold doesn't want to end this punishment after Triple H begins bleeding. As a matter of fact, he's going to march down the whole length of the cage while scraping the game's face into the steel. Austin wants to bring Triple H into the ring, but Rikishi ends up helping the game. These two promised to form an alliance this past week on Raw, but that no good dirty dog Triple H backstabs his buddy, and Big Keish takes a pedigree. Rock has to save the match when he breaks up Hunter's cover, and Hunter takes a DDT for being such a bastard. Here comes Angle with an Olympic slam on Rocky. Here comes Austin with a Stone Cold stunner on Angle. The American Badass comes in to put Austin down with a chokeslam, and it's Triple H who keeps the match alive by breaking the cover. Undertaker makes Triple H pay by beating the tar out of him on the outside. Hunter gets launched into the cage, and the dead man runs the game face first into the steel. No doubt about it, Hunter's took the biggest beating of the night so far. Austin, meanwhile, is on fire in the ring, and he delivers a clothesline to Rikishi, and he sends Taker back to the outside with a clothesline. And Stone Cold's looking good as he performs a Luthez press on the Big Goose. It's at this moment where Vince McMahon tries to stop the Hell in a Cell match by coming down the ringside on that truck we saw during the Kane vs Chris Jericho match. The truck filled with kennel bedding, which was made up of wood shavings. The plan here is to tie a chain onto the Hell in a Cell and tear it down by using the truck, and this plan does work at first, seeing as McMahon's able to get the door ripped off its hinges. Vince then wants to tear the entire cell down using this method, and I don't know guys, I don't think this is going to work, but we aren't going to find out anyway because Mick Foley appears and he stops McMahon in his tracks. Not only does Foley stop McMahon, he also takes out the Stooges before getting arena security to escort Vince back behind the curtain. So the match will continue, but now we don't have a cage door, and we also have a giant truck sitting at ringside. Triple H takes this opportunity to try and escape, but Stone Cold ensures the game isn't going anywhere. These two end up fighting at the entranceway, and Austin uses the parked cars and a boom camera to do some damage to the game. Undertaker, Angle, Rock and Rikishi show up on the entranceway too as an all-out brawl takes place outside Hell in a Cell, and Triple H finally fights back by putting Stone Cold's head through the truck window. Angle gets his head drilled through a window too, but the cameras missed the impact and it got no pop from the audience whatsoever. What does get a pop though is The Rock going for a rock bottom on Triple H on top of a car, but unfortunately the move doesn't happen. Instead, Hunter counters with a low blow and Rock ends up taking the pedigree. Steve Austin's bleeding, The Rock's bleeding. It's kind of ironic that the match has gotten much more vicious outside of the cell, and the carnage continues with the men using the cars to inflict as much damage as possible. Austin's now destroying Triple H while the other four men head back down to ringside, and Angle's able to keep the Undertaker at bay with a chair shot at the timekeeper's area. This shot would bust the dead man wide open. It's now time to travel to the cell roof. The crowd are going crazy as Hunter and Austin make their way up. The two go at it and the game's very close to falling off the edge, and as Kurt and the Undertaker begin making their way up, Austin performs a stunner on the game. So we've now got four guys up there, and we all know how dangerous the Undertaker can be when he's in this specific environment. After a little brawling, Triple H decides to head back down and the crowd loudly boo when the game makes this decision. Steve Austin soon follows, but Rikishi is now trying to climb up and The Rock's having no luck in stopping him from doing so. Meanwhile, Kurt Angle's getting absolutely mauled by The Undertaker as the WWF Champion takes a chair shot to the face, but Rikishi takes that same chair and the big man goes on a rampage. Both Undertaker and Angle take chair shots. Angle finally comes around and he's sensible enough to get out of harm's way by climbing down the cage. And then the big spot of the match happens as Taker begins fighting back. The dead man brings Rikishi to the edge of the cage. The fans know what's going to happen. The Undertaker puts his hand around Rikishi's neck and a push sends the big man falling down into the truck filled with wood shavings. Now, no, it's nowhere near as spectacular as Mick Foley's bump at King of the Ring 98, but it still takes some big balls to fall off that cage backwards. I remember reading or hearing somewhere that Shane McMahon took the bump multiple times before the show during rehearsals just to make sure it was all properly lined up, but still, it'd be scary up there not knowing if you were going to hit your target. People rag on this bump because of the soft landing, but I give full credit to Rikishi for doing it. Fair play, big man. The Rock and Steve Austin are now standing face to face, and the crowd pop for these two going at it just as much as they did for Rikishi's fall. We're seeing the end of Reliving the War right here in the ring, guys. Rock avoids a stunner, he delivers a spinebuster to Stone Cold. He wants to hit the people's elbow, but Triple H makes sure it doesn't happen, and Rock gets a little payback by sending Hunter out of the ring. Kurt Angle runs straight into a rock bottom, Austin breaks the cover, The Rock takes a Stone Cold Stunner, but when Austin goes for the cover, Triple H wakes up and the game counters a stunner with a neck breaker. This allows Kurt Angle to put his hand on Rock, and this is going to give Angle a pinfall win. Kurt Angle retains the gold inside Hell in a Cell. The fans are not happy with the outcome, but to cheer them up a little, the champion takes a Stone Cold Stunner, and it's Austin's music that plays to end the show. A lot of broken bodies in the ring right now, and Rikishi could be, in kayfabe, seriously injured. What this means for Mick Foley, we don't know, but we'll find out tomorrow night on Raw, I'm sure. I consciously avoided saying this after most matches tonight, but this pay-per-view really does feel like an extended episode of Raw, bar the Hell in a Cell main event. The main event too, I'm sorry, it's probably a cardinal sin to say this, but I actually didn't think it was as good as everyone makes it out to be. I mean, yeah, it definitely picks up after the cell door gets ripped off, and the guys work their asses off during the last 5 minutes or so, but for me, it doesn't compare to Shawn Michaels vs Undertaker or Undertaker vs Mankind. Those matches had pretty deep psychological aspects to them, which made Hell in a Cell seem like more than just a jam cage. This one right here was more about sheer mayhem, which we really should have expected, seeing as it had 6 people included. It's not bad, I still think people should definitely watch it, I just don't think it's this great Attitude Era showdown that everyone says it is. So in closing, Armageddon 2000 is everything I feared it would be. It's a one-match pay-per-view. There's nothing here that could have potentially happened on weekly TV except for the chaos that was the main event, and I think it's one of the weakest WWF pay-per-views of the year. You should check out Hell in a Cell and skip the rest, really. But thank you very much for watching another video in the Reliving the War series. Come over on Thursday for the Armageddon Fallout, and until then, please take care.